Hey, Algebra 2, and welcome to Lesson 3.2. We're going to be adding, subtracting, and multiplying polynomials. Today, our lesson essential question is, how do you add, subtract, and multiply polynomials? We're going to answer that question today. Let's go ahead and get started with an example. We're going to add and subtract some polynomials. For this one, we're going to be adding our polynomials. So we got to keep in mind that when we're adding polynomials, we're going to only be adding like terms. That is, we're only going to be adding terms that have the same exponent or the same degree. So this term and this term, right, we can combine those two. So if I have 6x cubed and I add 2x cubed to that, I'm going to wind up with 8x cubed. I like to cross them out as I go so that I don't look at them again. Our next lowest is x squared. So let's go ahead and add all of the x squareds together. So we have negative 8x squared plus x squared is going to give me a negative 7x squared, right? That's like negative 8 plus 1. So we've got those done. The next thing we're going to look at is our x to the first power. It turns out there is only one of those. We'll drop that down, and now we have our constants out here. So negative 7 plus 3 is going to give me a negative 4. And there it is. It's done. All right, let's try another one. And this time, we're going to be subtracting. Let's get the subtracting going. So, the first thing that I want to do when I subtract is I'm going to get rid of these parentheses. So the first parentheses are there to separate our two terms in parentheses. And this one now is really important because what we need to do is distribute this negative to each of the terms inside of the parentheses. And what that's going to do is change the sign of each of the terms. So now we'll have a negative 2x squared y squared minus, right, it was positive, now it's a negative 3x y squared plus 2x squared. So all that negative sign did was change the sign of everything inside my parentheses. Now I need to find like terms and combine. So this one has an x squared and a y squared. I want to look for anything else that also has an x squared and a y squared. And that's going to be this term. So if I have 3x squared y squareds, and I take away 2x squared y squareds, I am only going to have 1 x squared y squared left. So when I combine those two terms, that's what I'm going to get. So now I'm going to look and see, do I have another x y squared term? In fact, I do. I have one right here. So these two are matching. If I have 2xy squareds and I subtract 3xy squareds, I'm going to be left with a negative 1 x, my bad, not squared, but x y squared. Fantastic. That's what I get when I combine those. And then I'll drop down our last term, this 2x squared. And there we go. We have subtracted the polynomials. All right, so now that we've added and subtracted some polynomials, let's go ahead and multiply. So another word that we could use to describe what we're doing is distribution, right? What we have to do is we have to distribute each one of these terms to each one of the terms inside of the parentheses. We're going to multiply. So I'll do the 2m times the 3m squared, and that gives me 6m. And keep in mind, we're going to add these exponents, okay? So now we'll have m to the third power. Now, 2m minus times negative 4m is going to give me negative 8m squared, because m times m is m squared. And then 2m times 2 is going to give me 4m. Next, the 5 is going to have to distribute to each of these terms. So 5 times 3m squared is going to give me 15m squared. 5 times negative 4m is going to give me negative 20m. And 5 times 2 is going to give me the 10 Excellent. Now it's time to combine like terms. So I don't have any more m cubed terms, so I'm going to drop that one down. It appears that I have two m squared terms. So 15 minus 8 will give me 7m squared. 4m minus 20m. Now we'll combine these two. 4m minus 20m is going to give me a negative 16m. And then there's nothing to combine with a 10, our constant out there, so we'll drop it down. All right, so let's do another one. And this one's a little more complicated. We're going to take it step by step. So the first thing I'm going to do actually with this is I'm going to go ahead and multiply these two first. And I'll leave the mn, plus 1 out in the front. And let's go ahead and multiply this. And I'll put my product that I get inside of my parentheses. So let's go n times n, or mn times mn is going to give me m squared n squared, right? Because m times m is m squared, and n times n is n squared. So now we'll do 4mn, right? 4 times mn is going to be 4mn. Negative 4 times negative 2 times mn is going to give me negative 2mn. And negative 2 times positive 4, negative 8. Let's go ahead and combine like terms in those parentheses that we just filled with all of those products. So it looks like we can combine the mn terms. So 4mn minus 2mn is going to give me 2mn minus 8. Fantastic. Now our next step is going to be, we're going to finally get to multiply this term that's out here in the front, or this binomial that's out in the front. So we'll start by multiplying the mn times each of the terms in that parenthesis. So m times m, right? M times m squared is going to give me m to the third power. And then the n times the n cubed is going to give me n to the third power n cubed. Mn times 2mn is going to give me 2. M times m is m squared, and n times n is n squared. And now, negative 8 times mn is negative 8mn. Beautiful. Last one. Now let me make sure that the 1 has been multiplied times each of these terms. So 1 times m squared n squared is going to just be m squared n squared, right? Not going to change it. And in fact, this 1, multiplying any of these terms by 1 isn't going to change any of them at all. But now we've got our parentheses gone. Let's see if we can combine some like terms. It doesn't look like there are any m cubed, n cubed terms, right? But it does appear that there are 2 m squared, n squared terms. And we're going to add 2 and 1. So then we'll have 3 m squared, n squared. Looks like we also have a few mn terms. And that's going to give me a negative 6m. And there's no constant to add, so here we go. This is our final answer. Fantastic. So we have added and subtracted polynomials, and we've multiplied some polynomials. And that is it for this part of the lesson. Come back and we'll do examples 4 and 5. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a beautiful day. And if you're not, I hope it gets better. Take care of yourself.